Now, voila. Ooh. Okay, this one I'm not going to be able to do anything with right now. For one particular reason, the connector doesn't have contacts in it. But I think this one is the one that had the ripped traces. Not bad, per se, but definitely not good. Yeah, look at that. Those copper pads are ripped off. So what I can do is I can shave back a little of that solder mask and bridge a wire, or maybe even just enough solder will do the job. The main reason I can't do anything is because it doesn't look like this connector has the contacts in it. The little two copper prongs are ripped off. So I'm not gonna say this motherboard's junk, but there's nothing I can do with it right now until I can get another connector. Because I think the junk boards that I have, both the connectors are ripped off. I'm gonna take the female end off, though. I'm just going to try and inspect it, but I don't see the contacts there. It's a little hard to do this. Well, no, I can't really fudge it. The only way I can really do this is if I clip the connector off and just solder it straight to the motherboard. I don't want to do that if I don't have to. But that is a method of just solving this problem. Yeah, I don't see it in the connector, and it's missing those two copper contacts. So I'll look at my junk boards again. I'm pretty sure I already used up both of those connectors that I had. And I think you can source these connectors from DigiKey. I don't know, though. Oh, look at that. One of my junk boards does still have its connector. Perfect. So I will be able to fix this. But that's the part I'm looking for right there. I just so happen to have one left. Thank goodness. Because I don't want to make too many junk boards if I don't need to. So I'm going to get this off. There we go. So now I have the connector. Now I need to sort of look at what I want to do. I do need to scrape off some copper and get some solder on these points. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, that's a mess. It's not bad, but how on earth do you do this? This poor console has seen much more than it should. So this ground plane looks pretty good. I need to grab my X-Acto knife. The ground plane's pretty big, so I don't necessarily need to worry about it. The positive end, however, is going to be a little more challenging because I only have that little cluster of vias to work with. It's a pretty large space in actuality, that's quite a bit of space for me to work with compared to a lot of trace jobs I've seen. Doesn't make it no less challenging. So I kind of want to go right here and just scrape off some of this solder mask. I'm gonna be kind of liberal in how much I expose. Just make sure I have a nice good landing spot. Silk screen marking is pretty tough. I'll ignore it. That should be good. That's a good landing spot. It's positive, however, I need to be careful not to do that and scratch the negative because I don't want to bridge solder onto the negative. Oopsie, that's going to cause troubles for me, I suppose. I'm going to get this big flake right here. Okay, I'm just going to have to be very careful. Thankfully, I kind of know what I'm doing, so... And I'll be able to check if it's shorting to ground. I should probably double check that just to make sure I don't go on a wild goose chase for the U11 component again. Okay, look at this. Should be good. Might try and get a little more of that positive end. No, I think that'll be okay. It's enough exposed for me to work with. Grab my solder paste again. I'll be able to control how much solder I put on. I'll need to be a little more liberal with my solder paste because I'm putting them on, or basically making new pads. Paper towel hair is stuck on. That paper towel hair is making things very difficult for me. Get it off. No, Mamma Mia. There. I'll be able to work with. Now I have to determine whether or not I want to try and run a wire. I think the only problem I have with that is it's going to be kind of hard to keep that wire in place. I do have some pretty thick wire that I can use. This should be a good gauge. I think this is 20. I don't remember what gauge it was. Gonna check here. Yeah, and then what I can do is just have the wire end just sort of poke out, and then I can edge cut it later. Because I'm guessing I'm just gonna need that little tiny helping hand to reach over to those pads. Or I could just bolster up these little artificial pads a little more and then maybe push the connector back a little further to try and get it to grab onto these new pads that I'm making. I'll clean it up just to see what it looks like. I should probably make sure that positive isn't bridging. It doesn't look like it is, so I think I'm okay on that front. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna probably need this wire. That's looking good. I like that. Ooh, that's looking good too. This connector is definitely not going to sit on flush, but this is just going to have to be how it is. It's trace repair after all, so it's not going to be OEM naturally. You edge cut off this little excess that's dangling off. And I think I'm ready to try and install this now. It's going to be a little difficult because there's nothing really stopping these wires from just falling off. It's not really something I can do after the fact. I have to sort of do that prep right now. What I can do is see kind of what it looks like on the back. I have it, I think, in the right spot. It looks like it will grab onto the positive. If I nudge it over, I might be able to have it. It might grab onto the negative. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to see what that does. It's a little hard to say. I'm guessing these wires are probably gonna come loose. So I'll try and tape them down. Okay, well, here goes nothing. You know what, I could probably microscope it. Make the injector a lot closer. I don't know if these front two pins are going to mount. They're a little far away. I'm going to mount just a little bit. The wire's lifting, kind of what I expected it to do. Come on, baby. I might need more solder on the end of that negative wire. I don't think it's going to grab on without me torching the top of this connector, which I was trying not to do. Oh, it's doing something. It's settling in. Leave it for just a couple more seconds. Doesn't really look like that positive end is liquefying, kind of what I expected. Come on, baby. Looks like the negative liquefied really nicely, though. Try and concentrate on keep on the videos. There we go. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. 3, 2, 1. Okay. That looked pretty good. I don't think it grabbed on. I don't think the negative grabbed onto that leg. I'll do continuity tests, of course, but I might have to sort of sneak some solder paste in there and then just remelt everything. Okay. I'm on continuity on my multimeter. This will be a little hard because I don't know how loose this connector is either. Yep, it's not connected to the negative. The positive is connected to the negative either, thank goodness. So I'm going to have to sort of worm in some solder paste in there. The positive connected. No, it's not connected either. I think. Oh, the positive is connected. Okay. Try the negative one more time just to make sure it wasn't a false negative. Nothing. Alright. Yeah, I didn't think. It didn't look like it was connected. It looks like it's sort of balling up right there where I cut back on the solder, or the solder mask. But it sort of balls up there and stops. It doesn't go all the way to the connector, so... But I'm going to trust my multimeter. I'm going to try and sneak a little bit of solder paste in there. This will hopefully put a little more usable solder right where I want it. A little more flux, that will sort of go down as I heat everything. There we go, now we're talking. Ah, see. So those little solder balls should all solidify when it gets nice and warm. Ooh, nice and good. What I might do is try and push down on this connector just a touch. See if I can encourage it to go down. Yeah. Doesn't really look like anything changed. But I do have continuity on my negative now. Okay. Fantastic. Let's get it down. I'm going to clean it up. And then I'll check continuity on everything. But it looks like it did a pretty good job, actually. Guessing just that just that tiny little bit of solder paste was all that was needed. Yeah, this connector is really gummed up. Now, isopropyl alcohol will dissolve this flux, but when it solidifies, it really doesn't. There's only so much it can do. Right, give it a push. Definitely have to get those nooks and crannies. And you know what? It actually did a lot. It did pretty good going in from the back. I was able to solidify it without torching the connector, so good to know. But I should know that. What I didn't think is that these two copper contacts would get hot enough just from the bottom, because when I'm installing these connectors, those two copper contact points are just floating. And if they weren't getting warm, they weren't going to grab onto the solder that I was trying to flow underneath them. But I guess my concerns were not realistic, as it's very clear that they get hot enough to grab onto the solder that's underneath them. Oh, that looks so pretty. Welcome back to the land of the living, PSI. I never did check to see if the positive and negative shorted together before doing this. Oh, well, do it now. I'll tackle any problems that come. So let me check the positive. I know this one's good. Still good. And it is not shorting with the negative. Check the negative. Good. And it's not shorting with the positive. So that is a successful... I think calling it trace repair might give it way too much credit. It was just replacing a pad. So now it's going to be the fun job of trying to edge cut these as close as I can. This doesn't have to be perfect. Right, and then negative line I didn't really get a bite on, but I should just be able to 50 it off. I was able to like nip it a little bit, but it didn't come completely off. Just sort of ending like that to 50 it. There we go. And I'll put these in my scrap wire pile because for exactly points like this, I need just a little piece of wire. Darn good stuff that solid core wire is. Now I'm gonna have to just get it nice and clean again and make sure that that positive line isn't shorting. It looks like it's contained within the little cluster of vias. But I just need to make sure that I don't have a positive line just touching another pad. I'd rather not send 3.7 volts to where it's not expecting 3.7 volts. Yep, it looks like that entire wire is over that cluster of vias where the positive line is, so even if that solder mask does get worn away somehow, it will still be on the positive plane. And the negative plane I'm not worried about because that wire is over the entire negative plane. Using a little air puffer to dry up that alcohol. It looks pretty good, all things considered. I'm very pleased with how that turned out. What I will do is test it with the charger again to see if I get a blinking orange light. Yeah, the connector is lifted, but again, that is to be expected. I have wire underneath it to bridge those points. All right. So let me put my charger in it to see if I get orange blinking light, and that should at least assess that most of this charge circuit is good. There it goes. Let's grab my tester stuff. All right, let's check the charge circuit. Will it charge the battery? But it is charging the battery. It's a solid orange light. All right. Blue power light. All right, Matt. Console is alive again.